Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Today we're doing a foursome. We have the MCCW podcast on the show. That would be the Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide with Ian, Taylor and Norrin Radd. Welcome to the show. We can't wait to talk with you today.
Hey, how are you?
Hey everybody.
Hi Ian, hi Norrin. Well, we're all feeling good today, aren't we? So where I'd like to start is, I'd like to start finding out when you started collecting cards and what first got you into that.
Oh, go for it, Norrin.
Me? Okay. Oof. Okay, so I was very young, and it was during the 90s craze of Marvel cards. So they were everywhere, and I was very quick to find them. I'd always been a fan of Marvel comic books and got into comic books and then cards almost immediately after. So there wasn't much of a bridge. And I loved the idea of being able to, because I've always been very kind of like creative, and my day job, I teach screenwriting at university. I write, all this other kind of stuff that I've done. So I've always been in that frame of mind, and I love composition, art, design, and so forth. So these cards, when I found them, they're so creative, they're so interesting. A lot of hearts were poured into them, and a lot of talent was poured into them. So it was really amazing to feel that connection to these things and categorize them and look at them. And, it felt really fun and exciting. So very quickly, starting when I was a kid, and then it was around, oh God, I don't remember the date, Ian. It was like a couple years before we met, basically. And Ian is better at dates than I ever will. We're like a married couple in that sense. I'm the goldfish. And so basically, I was in my MFA, and I was like, well, these poetry people are driving me crazy. And I was like, I need something to calm my head down. So I went into collecting cards, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do a Silver Surfer collection, which is my main focus. And a couple of years later, hunting and looking around, I met Ian, and here we are today, years later.
How many Silver Surfer cards do you think you've got now?
Ooh, good stuff. I'm probably, so Silver Surfer Master Collection means foreign sticker, tattoos, pogs, all this stuff. So, and all the cards, every card he's ever been on, I'm probably only missing 2 or 3. And all the years Marvel cards have been out. So I have, it's a big collection. I'm very fortunate to have it. I have a lot of really beautiful pieces here. Has to be over 500, 600. I mean, just looking at the key, Ingrid's like, oh my God, man. Yeah, it's a little much. Yeah, it's basically this stuff in here. Ian outdoes me in every way, but yeah,
I think so.
Those 3 boxes right there. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's kind of funny that when I was a kid in the 80s, I was big into Ninja Turtles and stuff, but I remember I had some Marvel cards. I'm still big into Ninja Turtles. I'm obsessed.
Yes.
I had some Marvel cards, and the 80s style of Marvel characters, Storm and all that. I absolutely love. I only had 3 random ones. I don't know where they came from, but as a kid, I used to sit and look at them for ages, just looking at the artwork and the line work.
Well, it was so funny because that's what happened to me. I moved from Miami, Florida, where I was born and raised, local there, when I was like 20 something, to North Carolina, and for the school I went to. And I brought some of my Marvel cards with me, and I only had like 3 or 7, maybe like 15 tops that like over the years I had kept and I really cherished. And that's the same thing I would do. I would just be like, oh man, I just love it was like a Ron Lim Silver Surfer. And I was like, Ron Lim is the best for Silver Surfer, because it's the one I grew up on. But no, same thing happened to me. It was just this really fun kind of glimpse at these designs that were always very appealing to me.
You're charmed by the collecting as well, and the fact I can get more of these and add to this. And
the collecting is weird because on the surface, I think I've always been someone who collects things because I don't like a lot of clutter. I don't like a lot of things around me. I like the minimalistic type of thing. I just do, even in like artwork. I like the sketchy, I like the lines, I like the smaller things about the piece that make the story. Like that for me just takes me away. So I didn't think I would get into it like this, but it was really the community and like my friends, and like it became so much fun and hanging out. And yeah, I'm very extroverted on the podcast, and in person when people meet me, they feel that way. But I'm also very much introverted in the sense that I need my quiet headspace time. And you know what I mean? I like to look at nature. I like to like doze off as much as possible, and wander.
Sympathize with you.
Yeah. So it's just the way I am. But it's really the hobby, which is why I've done, so much with Ian and stuff like that, is because it's nice to have friends, honestly, as corny as that sounds, that's been really the nicest part.
So Ian, how about you? How did you get started collecting?
Well, I was born at a very early age in Devon, and if you're
We're all
very
born at an early age, I think.
Not Benjamin Button, come on.
no, exactly, unless you're Brad Pitt. My first experience with cards wasn't anything to do with Marvel. In fact, I discovered Marvel some years later. My first cards I remember were, I would have been about 6 or 7. Would have been Star Trek the Motion Picture, which were available in newsagents over here. And Star Wars, the original movie cards, which I saw those cards long before I saw the movie, relatively. And I remember I had some Star Trek the Motion Picture cards. I didn't have all of them, but I used to watch the episodes of the 60s series on BBC Two on Tuesdays at 6 o'clock. Lindsay, you might have some frame of reference for that. I don't know. And in those days in the UK, there were literally like 2 channels, but like and then it became 3, and then it became 4. This is long before cable or digital or satellite or anything like that. So I used to love, and still do love, Star Trek, and so I cherish those motion picture cards, and I don't think I have the full set, and I don't have them anymore. It's actually, I'd love to get back that set at some point. Fast forward kind of 4 or 5 years, so I guess I'm about maybe 9 or 10 at this point. And newsagents in the UK used to stock American comic books, maybe about 3 months after they'd come out in the US. And it'd be complete potluck as to what books would come in, and, it wouldn't be the full range at all. And I remember 3 or 4 months on the trot, my mum could afford to buy me some books, and I went for Spider-Man. So I went for Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, and Web of Spider-Man, which were all coming out at the same time. And it absolutely blew my mind, because I was aware of Spider-Man, and he'd been in some UK comics, but I'd never read an American comic of Spider-Man. So, plus the fact that you had Spectacular Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man, and they were crossing over with each other. So all of a sudden, it's a bigger world. It's like, yeah, my mind goes crazy. Fast forward to being a pimply teenager, and a comic shop opens in the nearest big town, which is still a pretty big thing in the UK for a comic shop, a bricks and mortar shop, to actually exist, let alone still be going after all these years, and they still are. And I remember him getting in Marvel Universe 1992, so Marvel Universe set 3, and getting them in and opening them and having previews with the uncut promos in, those big thick phone book previews that you used to get. Do they still make those previews? Like, really?
No, they don't, man. But yeah, they're amazing. I got.
It was literally like the phone.
It's a thick book. It was like it was before Wizard, basically.
Yeah. And I'd see people opening them, and I was at college by this point. I had no money at all. I had zero disposable income. In fact, I was in negative equity at that time. So I could just see other people opening these cards, and I'd just go in and just hang in the comic shop, not being able to afford anything.
Were you living in Devon at the time?
Yeah, I was living in North Devon.
Is it that little comic book shop that's down a little alleyway?
Yeah, Church Lane in Basketball.
I've been.
Yeah, run by Graham Hill, actually, who is building up quite a head of steam as an artist in his own right. Now he's very active on Facebook. I don't think he's been on any sets. Maybe he has. I don't know. But anyway, they still run the comic shop.
I've got a Simpsons the collector figure that I got from there, God, 20 odd years ago.
Yeah.
It's funny. This is the thing we're always missing on our podcast, because Ian will say places and I'm like, it could be anywhere. Like I have no idea what he's talking about.
But the scene over here is so small,
right,
compared to the US and Canada. I mean, I don't know how much you have in Canada, but at least you have a big sports card scene. There are stickers and cards in stores over here, but they are largely sports, and these days they're largely kind of games and Premier League things, soccer, for translation, for the Americans watching and listening. But there's not much there, and certainly nothing in terms of, even in the 90s, there was nothing in the terms of that Marvel card product that made it into mainstream supermarkets, newsagent stores. So, you only had that there. So anyway, fast forward. I was, and then I went off to college and started working in West End Theatre and what have you. And then in around 2007, I was still kind of collecting comics on and off as I could. Marvel, mainly Spider-Man related. And then I was working on Shaftesbury Avenue in London, and I was 50 yards away from Forbidden Planet, which is the big, Lindsay, you've probably heard of it because they've got around the UK. There's one in New York as well, at least there was.
What is that? For those of us,
a huge
Forbidden Planet is a pop culture store. So the London mega store moved a few times. But I went in there last month with my daughter, who's 6, for the first time, and she loved it, and she ended up coming out with the Pikachu toy. But they've got action figures, they've got manga, they've got books, they've got trading card games, and they've got comics and graphic novels, and anything related to pop culture stuff.
Last time I was in London, sorry to interrupt you again, but I went to Forbidden Planet and I was looking for some Sandman stuff because I'm a big Sandman fan.
That's cool.
There was somebody sat there signing graphic novels, and it was it that did V for Vendetta.
Alan, it's not Alan Moore. He's
the writer, I think, but are you thinking of the artist?
Because I'd never heard of it.
Is it Alan Moore, big beard?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He's a crazy mofo.
Signed or anything. I was just like, I've never heard of that, and carried on.
Carried on. You're like, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm always like that. For me, it's a celebrity walks past me, somebody will go, whatever.
Yeah. Forbidden Planet were always really good at doing signings. They do artist signings loads. I've been to a few comic signings there. I went to Kevin Smith, did a signing there a few years back. The big one I remember going to is Zack Snyder when Batman v Superman came out. Did a signing, and I queued for 2 hours. Pumped off work early because I was literally had to cross the road to join the queue. Queued for 2 hours and got an art book signed from that. And got a photo with him. Lovely fella. Anyway, and they had. I used to go in there most lunch breaks and just look and browse. And they had in Marvel Masterpieces 2007, and I was like, okay, I remember Marvel Masterpieces because I remember it coming out in '92 and then having some packs along the Marvel universe. And '92 was the first year it came out, Jojo's Go. And I remember looking at it thinking, oh, okay, I'm an adult now. I have disposable income. And I'm in a store that sells them in the UK. I'll have some of those, please. And pack, go back to the office, open them, love them, go back the following day, rest of the box, thank you. Go back the following day, they've opened another box. Of course, each box has been cherry-picked. I never once got a sketch, which is fine. Went back, and I think I got through about 3 boxes worth and kind of cleared them out of all the boxes they got in. And yeah, absolutely loved it. And then 2008 came in only a few months later because the 2007 was slow in coming over. And then I discovered sketch cards. And I was thinking, oh, hang on a minute, there's sketch cards. And I really like that Black Cat character from Spider-Man from when I was 10. She made me feel a bit tingly. So can I go on eBay and have a look? And oh, yes, there are sketch cards of Black Cat. Order, click. It arrives a few weeks later. I'm like, and the rest, as they say, is history.
And you were hooked.
And I was hooked, yeah. And then I started kind of.
That's a great question to ask, actually. Like, at what point did you realise I'm a big grown-up adult now and I can buy what I want? And what did you buy? So yours was all your Marvels cards. I went and got the full set of Turtles figures from 2002.
Ooh,
That's a great set of figures. That's good stuff, actually. That's not a bad idea.
And the woman at the checkout, is it somebody's birthday? I'm like, no, they're all.
I have a great made-up nephew I always go to. It's really good. It's good stuff. I get less dirty looks.
So this
anything like that for you, Norrin? When you realised I'm a big adult, I've got money and I can buy what I want.
God, it's happened recently. So I'm like, well, because I teach at a university as a lecturer, so it's like really no pay and horrible conditions over here. And a lot of the workforce over here in the US, like around the world, has been really dismantled and being abused quite a bit. But for me, it was just recently I just kind of I can't remember the card, because it's been like for a long time I've had to always like buy stuff and then sell something to get something different, and it's always been kind of like that relationship between my collection. And it's only till recently where I was like, you know what, nope, I feel good about this. I got money off to the side now for this, and now I'm just extremely picky when I spend money. But I'm getting close to that moment where I'm like, it's okay, I pay my own bills, I solve my own problems, excuse me. And I can get that. So it's there, it's happening, I'm in it.
I'd like to quickly interject and ask you guys. So obviously, like, you have your podcast and you're both Marvel fans, and you're, well, maybe not new to the sketch card thing, but it hasn't been 20 years or anything like that. So what do you think of the sketch card as an add-on to the trading cards that you guys have been collecting?
Well, for me, it was the first thing I collected of Black Cat. For at least, where are we now? 20. I can't believe I'm having to look at numbers. We're in 2022, so I'm 14 years in collecting Black Cat at this point, and it's only really in the last 4 years that I've started collecting outside of sketch cards, and now the majority of my Black Cat collection is non-sketch cards. Not that I've trimmed a little bit, but it's just that I very much went. It wasn't Norrin that led me down this dark path, but it is a dark path. As in, I've just opened it actually. I have a spreadsheet of every known card or sticker or trading card game that has Black Cat on. And it's a spreadsheet of some size now. It's
Wow.
So I know where her first appearance was on a trading card. I know where her first appearance was on a sticker, and I've been tracking them down. And every day is a first day at school on this, because Norrin will do something like he did this morning, and I open it and I'm like, mother, and it's something. No, from Italy.
I was wondering if you had that or not.
Yeah, well, I've got it unsealed, but
Saw the seal. That was pretty cool.
But that's the thing. So Norrin has just sent me an image of a card I own, but it's still sealed in a promo cellophane thing, and it came with a specific thing. So of course I have to own it. So that's where I am now. So in terms of sketch cards, they were always the main meal for me. Now they are very much the shavings of truffle on the top, because I'm quite fussy about them.
So what do you do with your collection? Are you planning to like expose it, hang it on the wall, or are you keeping it in a book for just to bring out when you want to?
Well, neither. To be honest with you, I don't display anything at the moment because I'm in a loft, and as you can see, there's quite a lot of natural light right above my baldy, shiny head here. So if I put anything on the walls up here, A, most of the walls are sloping, so I haven't actually got much wall space to hang on, and B, it would just get, knackered by the sun. But most of my stuff I keep in. I've got these metal flight cases now for my Black Cat collection. I've got one for my sketches and one for my non-sketches. I've since acquired a couple more for other things, and I just like to look through them and like to look at them. And I do plan to. We're moving home soon. Get it more organised and start to put some online. In a permanent place where people, see them and look at them. But I share stuff when time allows on my Instagram. I've got an Instagram just for my Black Cat collection.
Would you be interested in a A5 Black Cat drawing? I can send. I've got one that I did ages ago. It's been hanging around. I can send you it.
I'm always interested in anything related to Black Cat. Yes, very much so. Very much. Yeah, thank you. Very kind of you.
How did you two come together to start doing your podcast then?
It started with a restraining order, I think.
Yeah.
And then
there was that
it slowly moved into a friendship. Yeah.
That's right.
I think that's what it was.
There was a carrot involved. I know that. Anyway.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? So Lindsay, you will know as best as I'm sure that it's pretty thin on the ground in terms of card scene in the UK. So I joined a number of online communities. Scoundrel was the first one.
Were you on Scoundrel?
When or who?
The two of you?
I was, yeah. I was.
Me too.
Back in 2008, I joined, and I remember doing live openings on there.
I remember seeing your work for the first time, Ingrid, on Scoundrel. I remember all that stuff. Yeah. It's awesome.
So you remember all the good times and the weird times that happened.
The weird times.
Yeah. See, I kind of dipped out of the hobby for a few years when the weird times happened, and came back, and Scoundrel had kind of tumbleweeds. It was like
faded out into blowout.
So I started looking on Facebook and joining card groups on Facebook, and a lot of them were quite frustrating in that you could kind of almost say anything you want to someone without getting a punch in the mouth, which I was like, come on. And B, a lot of them were only shipping lower 48 or continental US only, and I'm like, okay, it's fine, but I'm in the UK, come on, it's not just limited to the US. And I get that some people might not want to, but to those people I say, shut up. So, because it's the postal system, it works perfectly well. So I set up my own group. I thought, screw this, I'm going to set up my own group where, and I was kind of, at the time, I was into collecting retro video games, and there was some pretty bonkers scene in terms of stuff that comes out. It's very limited. You get a lot of people after the same thing, and it can be quite it can turn into a dumpster fire very quickly without certain rules and things like that. Oh, we have someone running across the background. Oh no, they've gone again. Never mind. I thought we had a pitch invasion. And so I set up my own group, and I carried over some of these rules. So I wanted to make it so that first thing is, anyone who joins the group who wants to buy and sell or trade has to be willing to do so worldwide. And it's like, fair enough. That's kind of what I wanted. Secondly, I wanted everything out in the open. So if you want to sell on the group, everything stays on comments. You can actually see things, and you move to private messaging when you've done the deal. To swap your details and things like that. It just keeps things a lot fairer, especially with a lot more limited cards out there these days and stuff like that. It was a fairly slow start, and then I started another group, because I'm crazy like that, for Marvel Masterpieces. And when Marvel Masterpieces Collectors went live, one of the artists who'd been on Masterpiece 95, Dave DeVries, joined on day one, instantly invited people that he was friends with, like Joe Driscoll, Julie Bell, Boris, Greg Hildebrand, Nelson from 95. They all came into the group, and then they started interacting with each other and with collectors, and then loads of people joined, and then weirdly.
Can I just interrupt you for a mini second, and then please go on? Could you repeat some of those names, please?
Yeah, well,
Not Julie Bell. You didn't say Julie Bell and
Boris Vallejo.
Boris Vallejo. I mean, no.
Yeah, I mean, Boris doesn't really use his Facebook profile, so he's in the group, but he's never posted in the group.
I used to collect Starlog magazine way back in the day, and I had the whole collection for a while.
Yeah,
I don't anymore.
Yeah.
But anyway, he posted a lot of paintings in there, and it's like I fell in love with his work. It was just
he's
and then
amazing.
you had Greg Hildebrand too.
Greg Hildebrand, he's posted maybe half a dozen times. Simone Bianchi joined. He's been really good. He's done some exclusive video content for the group.
So Ingrid, she's fanning herself.
It's pretty good. Yeah, I was the same. I was like,
we all did it. All of us did it when the group happened. And they were showing up. We were just like,
yeah. And then Norrin had joined, and Norrin and I really got on, and Norrin immediately got the fact that, you know, if you limit yourself to just the US, you're closing doors for yourself, because especially with the modern Marvel Masterpieces sets, they're limited sets, and, you know, there are collectors in New Zealand, there are collectors in Europe, there are collectors in South America, and, you know, there are artists in all those territories as well. And if you just say you're only going to deal with people in the US, then you close yourself off from one-of-one pieces, from limited numbered pieces that there may be only 10 of. So I think that actually worked in our favor. And then Norrin came on as a co-admin on the groups. And then I said, "You want to start a podcast?" Because I've been wanting to start one for years before we even started the groups. And then it kind of felt like the right moment. And then we're almost 3 years in. In fact, it's going to be 3 years.
3 years. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But I have to say the biggest congratulations is the fact that you actually got to interact with Greg Hildebrand. Oh my God. And the Boris is, I'm speechless. That's
well, it was really amazing. So basically what happened too when I came on is that I did some design work for the group stuff, posters, things like that for people to enjoy. And to
all the logos.
All the logos, fun stuff, you know?
Yeah. And
we did all that stuff. And I think the thing that Ian and I also clicked on, not only the worldwide thing, because God, I have so many friends now in New Zealand, Australia, the UK. Like, it's so idiotic to think that only one country would have, especially with collectibles, right? Collectibles is that unique thing where it's so infused in the community aspect of having it be worldwide, because all these pieces do get distributed, right? People move, people go places, you know. But the second part of all this was that Ian and I was like, okay, we have the artists in here, right? Not only are we starting this podcast, but we're kind of in this great opportunity position where we can kind of record something and track the history of this, because it's strange, because Marvel cards very much, because it's artist based, right? And this goes back to sketch cards, which is just something we're going to start doing now. But with art based stuff, you do have these artists that have these careers, and they move and they either go into fantasy or comic book art, sci-fi art, novels, covers of novels or illustrations, you know, whatever they may be. And we're like, well, where are they now? What are they doing? What was it like painting this Wolverine card that everyone like gushes over now? You know what I mean? Like, what were your thought process? And I'm very art focused, and so is Ian, and we very much love everything about that discussion. So we were like, okay, we're just going to get them on the podcast. So between Ian and I, we've been getting everybody to eventually come on, like Greg Hildebrand, like Julie, like Boris. And it was insane. And they're all so pleasant and so lovely on top of that. Even the original creative director, Bob Budiansky, Ken Benoff, right? There's been people who were in the Marvel, like around, like saying, hey, let's make Marvel into trading cards. and we've gotten a chance to speak with them and record that history. And that's kind of, it became, in a strange way, it's always been fun work, but in a strange way, it's become kind of important work, because every hobby needs to have that kind of recorded history, that oral history.
This,
And
let
I
me,
think-
please
yeah.
let me just interject. This is
Oh,
like
so please.
fundamentally, I'm so on board with that point of view of keeping a recorded history of things. It's kind of like, family stories, family recipes, family this, family that, whatever it may be. Cars, unknown motorcycles. Why I said that, I have no idea. All these little things that, I think it's fabulous that that's a reason why you're doing that. Please continue.
I mean, but that's what your books are doing, right? The art of sketch cards, like the way you were interviewing people and the way you were bringing those discussions out. I know collectors talking about the collections is one thing, but those collectors are historians at the same time, at least at the level that you were getting those interviews from, and a lot of people, depending on every collection, and then also having the artists and having that kind of relationship. I mean, I don't know.
If there were no
It's
collectors,
important.
there would not be a hobby. I have to say that, of course, the companies are important, the artists are important, all of that. But if there was no one to collect these things, be it cards, sketch cards, figurines, what have you, if there were no collectors, it wouldn't exist. So the collectors really are important.
It's interesting because in some way we're seeing kind of that happening in society now, where it's because of collectors we're getting certain movies. We're getting certain budgets on films, on characters coming to the big screen, and Boris and Julie were kind of on the forefront of saying, oh, what do these characters look like in real life by using bodybuilders, right? Taking it from the comic imagery down to the reality of what it would look like through the physique to have these superhuman Greek mythology kind of looking characters. And so much of the world right now, good and bad, is run by nostalgia and a group of people who are very protective over their hobby, right? Or their collections or their memories and their attachments. But I don't know. It really was one of those things where Ian and I got along. We spoke really well with each other, and we were just having a lot of fun. And we were just so excited to get these people in the same room, partly to ask our questions we've always had since we were kids, and since we were teens and adults, and also to allow other people to have their questions. So a lot of times we open it up to the group and let people feel like they're a part of it, because they are at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And also, you could go,
oh yeah, we sweated. It was bad. It was embarrassing. I had to take off my shirt and drench it because it was just filled with sweat. It was just so much. It's really crazy.
and Julie Bell kind of fainted off camera at that point.
She did. Well, it was some vomiting at first. Let's not talk about it. It was.
Let's not go there. Let's not go there. It wasn't our finest hour. No, we had to
strange.
That director's
my guy's opinion. I've been doing a few cons recently, and I'm really hoping to get kids interested in sketch cards again. So I was going to look into getting some blanks made, so they could draw on them, and then maybe a Facebook group so they could show them off and whatever. I'm just wondering, as collectors, what would be your main selling points for collecting sketch cards?
I mean, sketch cards are, they're the reason.
Everyone's unique. Yeah.
They're the reason. They're the reason, in my opinion, and it is not the opinion at all, but in my opinion, you don't get better than a sketch card when you collect work from artists in anything. Like movie cards, it's the autographs, right? It's the fact that actor held that card, signed it, and then you found it, and you've always been a fan. It's that connection of like, wow, I was in the same room as them. And some people can't travel through disabilities or money or class or any of that kind of situation where they're not able to have those things available to them. So there is this beautiful reaching out across the cosmos type of thing for it to work. But I think with Marvel cards, it is such an art-based hobby that when you get a sketch card, like when I got my pack pool sketch card of Ron Lim drawing Surfer, My first Silver Surfer I've ever seen when I collected comic books was Ron Lim. He defined what Surfer looked like to me. I was born in 85. So that was the first, my dad bought me a comic book and it was modern at the time. And, then I saw John Buscema, Joe Sinnott, and Jack Kirby, of course, later on. But, Ron Lim was my first Surfer. That the shiny little flares on his back, the way he drew them. I immediately understood Surfer with that imagery. So when I would finally got a chance to own a sketch card that he drew of Surfer, right? And I met him eventually just a couple of years ago, which was really amazing. So nice. You don't get better. Like, in my opinion, you don't get better. I don't know how it gets better. Like, I rather would, if I could, if I could build up my sketch card collection of Silver Surfer, I would. It's just so impossible to find these sketch cards because they are so beloved.
Can I just interject there?
Sorry.
The weird, no. This is just before we forget and move on. Ron Lim has just completed a private commission set of sketches for collectors of the group on MCCW cardstock.
Yeah.
Bring that full circle.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's
our buddy Drew, Yeah. He hit me up about it because it was shortly. He's a huge fan. He has like original art, comic book art. I'm trying to get there. But yeah, Drew is really close to him, and Drew was really, really nice. And I mean, it's amazing that that's happening, that we're having these artists now, like Ian said, draw on, for the group members, which has been really, really lovely to happen.
That's really incredible. How do you think that your podcast has impacted your group? And did the group come before? I can't remember. I think you mentioned it. Whether the group came before the podcast.
Group came first. Yeah, group came first. I would say the way I think of it now is I've always said to people that the podcast is for you. It's something that we'll talk about what you want to talk about, but people are generally quite shy. So we've amazingly we didn't have much in that first year in terms of kind of suggestions and things. So we just kind of got on with it. But what started happening now, it's been around longer, is that we will do things like I'll post a topic because I know there's a talking point and I'll ask people to feed into it, and then we'll talk about it on the podcast. Or we don't do it too often because we don't kind of rely on it for content, but maybe about every 6 months or so, we'll do a Q&A thing where we'll just say, right, anyone got any hobby questions? And they're actually, for me, in the last year or so, they've been some of the most exciting and engaging ones for us to get into, because some of the questions you get are brilliant. It's asking all sorts of stuff from, in terms of products that's coming out from Upper Deck to sketch cards to questions. Really, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Even like collectors coming onto the podcast that people were interested in.
Podcast.
Yeah. That was really cool. That really worked out.
Yeah. Well, this ties back in. I was going to say the oral history thing came. Empire magazine in the UK, they did a thing on their website and in the magazine a few years ago called an oral history of the West Wing, and the phrase just struck, and I don't think it was original. I don't think they created it, but they did a thing whereby they interviewed everyone involved in the West Wing about the beginning of it, about the whole history of it. It was a several part thing, and they've done it for Lord of the Rings. They've done it for a number of things. I think they've done it for Star Wars as well. Anyway, and it just struck me. So that's not just about the artists that we've been speaking to, but we've been having quite a lot of collectors come on. So hopefully we're interviewing someone tomorrow I'm really excited to talk to. But we've had some people who just collect in some really interesting ways. We had one guy, bless him, a guy called Bobby, who collects cards that are serial numbered out of 69. So if there's Lindsay's gone. There we go. But it has that response from people. It's just such a fun thing. There are people finding really fun ways to collect. There's a guy who we haven't had on yet, who I think is kind of, unfortunately, he came into the hobby, burned really bright, and he kind of seems to have bounced a bit because life happens. Who was just collecting beards, characters with beards. he actually changed his Facebook name to Beard Sketches for a while. And I just find that the different routes people take to collecting to be so fascinating, and that's the kind of thing we're trying to bring onto the podcast as well.
I love that collector. That's nice.
Yeah, it's just such a nice idea. And Ingrid, when you're doing your first volume of The Art of Sketch Cards, available from all good bookstores. Actually, I'm probably lying because I don't think it is, but it should be. Here it is. We got wind of the fact that you were doing it, and you came on, and we, because.
Yeah, I'll be doing the last one this summer, the very last volume.
Yeah, wow. That's the thing. We didn't get you on. We didn't get you on for volume 2 for reasons. I think we just didn't happen. But come on and talk about volume 3. But I'm all up for if someone's doing something exciting and interesting, come on and talk about it, because I want the walls to come down so that people hear about stuff that's going on.
So you're not just about Marvel then.
We are, but we're. As in, that's what we collect and that's what we talk about. But I guess our most common crossover has been on the Star Wars side, because we're really good friends with Greg from the Rebel Base Card podcast. He started just before we did, but we consider ourselves sister podcasts in that he does a similar thing, but for the Star Wars card scene. And so he's come on our show, and we've gone. He was our first crossover actually. And we've gone on his show, and he recently came back on ours, and I think we're due to go on his. And it's really interesting. And again, we don't do it really bonkers regularly, but it's interesting, especially in the last year, 18 months. There's been huge changes in the Marvel card scene, and we recently had Greg on. It's just to find out, okay, what's been happening in the Star Wars card scene, because the pandemic had big impact.
Yes, that seems to have been a common response to several of the people that we've talked to, is that the pandemic, awful and terrible as it was, has had an impact on collectors because they had nothing else to do for those. So I expect that we're going to see changes coming up even more in the near future.
Yeah,
I would wager before I'll let Norrin take the baton here.
No.
I wager that the pandemic brought more new people into the hobby than anything else I've seen in my time in the hobby.
Yeah,
crazy. No, that sounds.
No, it was intense. Well, and the thing that we were talking to Greg about, which was funny, was that we got hit by a huge wave in Marvel, like 2 or 3 waves where like things got really popular, a little dip, and then things got even more popular and dip, and then things went through the roof, and now there's a dip. And Star Wars now is having those waves. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people are getting priced out on sports cards. And I think a lot of people, as they get priced out of different sectors of the card hobby, they're looking at other cards and saying, well, I've always been a fan of this. I can buy this without having a bidding war, and I can enjoy that. You know what I mean? And at first, I think a lot of people were really wary, like hobbies and collectors usually are when their stuff is being looked at by other people. And they're like, no, don't touch this. This is so pure. This is so perfect. But, I think the special thing is that people do, what's up, cat? I think the special thing is that it is bringing people into the hobby in different ways people collect, and I think it's really nice. I think it, and of course there's been problems along the way, and shady stuff, and that's inevitable. It comes with the course of what it goes to, but the truth of the matter is that Ian and I have been talking since day one that at one point Marvel cards in the 90s was really big and everyone collected, and it was so fun to have that ability to be walking down a mall, and I say mall because I was young back then, walking down a mall, you know what I mean, go to the movies and seeing a little stall filled with Marvel cards, or something like that.
Question for you too, seeing as you're talking about all these cards and everything, what do you think of small publishers, even though they may not be strictly Marvel? What do you think of?
Love it. I love it. Perna Studios, for instance, like Perna. Yeah, I have my Halloween one up there. I can't talk highly enough about what Tony Perna and Elaine Perna are doing, and they're doing it so right, which is the part that drives it. Just amazing that they even You know what I mean? Like I can't. They got me. I'm very picky on what I collect. A, because I'm very picky, and B, because I'm very cheap. And I try to be very, like, when things I like, I'll spend money on them, of course. But I try to be very picky because, you know, Surfer can be expensive. But I did the whole binder of Halloween 1 through 4 and Witchcraft because I'm just like, and Elaine helped me out so beautifully. She was so kind, and Tony as well. And I was able to catch up so late in the game. But I mean, the thing it's about them specifically is that they know the artists so well, you know, and the group of artists they know, they have such a good eye, you know, so they always have you on, or they have, you know, they got why am I blanking on this? PJ, they got Toma, they got so many people, you know what I mean? All these really great artists to contribute to them, but I think they're great. And I think eventually what will happen is a lot of people will take more interest in these smaller publishing card places because they can do it right. You know, Fanatics, which is the huge new company that's like coming out, they have a small thing as well too.
At the moment, they're sold out before they've even really announced it. It's crazy.
Like, it has to, right? I mean, yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I work for Perna now. I've done my second base card's coming out. I'm so excited. On the Elemental.
The Elemental. Oh, I gotta look at it then. I saw the email go out and I missed it like an idiot, but they're just so. I was like, I'm only gonna do Halloween. I have to be.
Elementals. It's awesome.
I'm gonna have to pick it up afterwards, like I did with most of their other stuff.
But yeah, I mean, for them, they have the demand. Like they're just sold out straight away. So I don't know if they would need to expand or, you know, but
what's
small.
What's so cool about these smaller companies is that they're touching topics that the bigger companies just cannot do, and it makes it really, really interesting, I find.
Yeah, I think a bit like small batch brewing in that regard. You know, you do it, and it has a limited lifespan. It sells out, and you leave them wanting more, and that's actually a good thing, I think, in terms of the business model. You know, as long as you're able to cover your costs. You know, if you're hitting all your markers, you're paying your bills, and you've got maybe, if you're lucky enough to have a little bit left to draw a wage from it, so much the better. I started discovering some independent art stuff via Scoundrel, actually, and the first one I properly went into was Axe Bones set that he started doing about 10 years ago, which I've got here in this binder just so that I've got a memory reference, if nothing else. Dungeon Dolls, Treasure Chests and Booty, and yes, chests as in chests and not as in treasure, because that's his style. And interestingly, through both of those sets, I went in deep on one sketch artist, both of whom I now follow, one of whom I've met and considered to be a personal friend, Scott Barnett, who's an American artist in New Jersey, and Elfie Lebeleux, who's a French artist who
I've seen her name around, yes.
Yeah, no, she's great. I've got most of her sketch cards from Dungeon Dolls, which are beautiful. And I've got most of Scott Barnett's sketch cards and a piece of original art that was used for one of the base cards.
Wow.
That's cool.
For Treasure Chests and Booty. And yeah, I went in deep with his stuff. And then, you know, I dabbled a little bit with, do you remember, Ingrid, you might remember Jack Red?
Yes.
He was, I don't know if he's still active. I haven't seen anything from him in a while. But
not either.
He did his own set called Dark Zodiac, which was great. And he released it in small batches for each.
Actually, I think I worked on that set.
Yeah. Yeah, and you ordered it in small chunks, and they'd have a sketch card with each one. He even did, for a brief period, and Norrin, I think I've sent you some spares of these. I had a small little sketch card size magazine.
Yes.
Yep, I remember that.
Yeah, and I think he only came out with maybe 2 or 3 issues of it. It's such a cool idea, and he's in the UK as well. So I'd love to track it out. Sci-fi cards, Ed's promos. I love the fact that there's loads of artists, you know, doing work on his things. I had a brief foray into sketchbooks from people, but Ian and Norrin's here.
Oh, that's cool.
Got one of Fred Ian's in the other room and things like that. So yeah, I've kind of dabbled into it. It's a deep thing to go into, because you throw a rock and you could hit 100 artists whose work is worthy of purchasing and getting into it this way. So, I've kind of been quite focused with it. Just, and I've found a couple of artists that I love and I go after their things.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So your podcast has really added a lot onto your group and your ability to collect and meet people with that. What do you think what do you see as the future for your podcast? Do you intend to continue for like eternally, or is this something?
Yes. Yeah, well, as long as we enjoy doing it, because I've often joked with Norrin, but it's actually true that it is a little bit of therapy for us. Certainly me.
Yeah.
I genuinely, living over here, I don't have any contact with anyone who collects or thinks about cards other than through the group and through the podcast. I've made friends through the group. I consider a lot of the creators to now be personal friends, because they've helped out and they've been on the podcast a lot, and we talk on Messenger. And for me, it's a lifeline to a scene that exists. It's always virtual for me, because I've not met Norrin in the flesh ever, So,
Well, that he knows.
Not that he, yeah, I know. What's that dog down hanging around outside the house every week? But we won't talk about that. But so from that point of view, that offers a good personal kind of well-being and enjoyment aspect of the hobby. I think as long as there's stuff to talk about and people who want to talk to us, we'll keep doing it. I'm about to move house, as I think I mentioned, and in my plans, I have to convert the garage, because we don't have a car, so why not, to a small studio, so that I can do more audio visual, more time zone friendly times a day. Because quite often when there's stuff happening that, like this evening, for example, there's a big thing happening on Instagram where loads of creators, I think Norrin, you're on, are going to gather around and, open a box of cards or something like that. It's going to be 3 in the morning for me. That kind of happens. Your logo's on it, so I assumed you'd.
What is going on with that, by the way? People keep throwing my logo on things like they want.
Yeah, no, it's Joshua. You'll have to have a word.
Joshua, I should never have given him that logo. He throws it on everything now. He's like, come on.
He's got it tattooed to his left butt cheek.
I'm going to summon him. I'm going to make sure he's on there.
Yeah, you realise that just by mentioning him, you have summoned him, and he will appear to death onto this very podcast right now. So that I can kind of be doing a little bit more. Now my daughter's getting a little bit older, and I've got a bit more bandwidth to do stuff. Hopefully, I can get more involved from that point of view. But I don't know. Noah and I have talked about doing other podcasts. It's purely a time and time zone issue from my point of view.
Yeah, that's what it ends up being. I mean, we definitely talk. It's funny, Ingrid, you asked this before, and I think I didn't get a chance to say something about it, but it's weird. It's a podcast about Marvel cards, but you're right. It is also a podcast on the hobby on a larger scope. You know what I mean? Because we have spoken to a lot of collectors who did Lord of the Rings, Ninja Turtles, you know what I mean? Star Wars, Star Trek. And I think what's really good, and I think we were responsible for partly of this, is giving Marvel card collectors, because there was a time where collecting Marvel cards was becoming a little bit of a headache, because the amount of people who were trying to get in, who were charging a lot of money for things that were probably not should have been that high, but people didn't know, and knowledge was scarce. And it affects us because we don't want people to get taken advantage of. And we talked about this a lot. So what we would do is, like, Ian went on a Star Trek journey where he went back to Star Trek cards, still on it. And like, I started collecting the Mandalorian. I missed one of your cards, Ingrid. I'm so mad. It was a profile of Mandalorian. I forgot what it was for Masterworks. It was so beautiful because you did like the sunset thing on him. Yeah. I got to show it to you. It's so cool. And it was just so beautifully done. And I missed it like an idiot. But we've been like, having these collections and stuff like that, and these little breaks and these hobby talks. And we talk about Perna's work all the time, the Perna Studios cards. I don't know. It has become a little bit more.
He keeps sending us rude voicemails. We've got another 2.
He is ridiculous.
He keeps
ridiculous on every level.
On the podcast.
It's so funny. And then he giggles about him when we see him. It's pretty great. He gets so excited. Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty funny. I like it.
Have you heard the Christmas card story?
No.
He sent us Christmas cards.
And wonderful Christmas cards. Mine, can't remember what yours had on mine. I had loads of little woodland creatures in a little scene, and there was.
I was close to that,
and yours was close to that. And then in January, he was hitting me up on Messenger, going, "Oh, can you send me? I want to make sure we don't give you the same card again next year. Can you send me a picture of it?" And of course, I didn't spot anything wrong. Norrin did.
No,
the same to you, and you immediately had the alarm bells going off. I didn't. So in the end, I found this card. And I took a photo of it and sent it to Tony, and even then I didn't see that he had drawn small penises on 2 of the animals.
He hit it. He hit genitalia everywhere.
Yeah.
The forced creature scene was no longer
and
sweet.
we had it on display like over a month, and she hadn't noticed either.
No one noticed. Our Christmas photos were filled with them. People were disturbed. No, just kidding. No, it was great, though. It was pretty funny, but it definitely took this woodland creature, sweet, innocent thing. I looked at the card and I could hear the chicka chicka wow wow just like singing over it as I looked at the card.
And
Perna.
Also,
Oh, wow.
Forgot he did that.
he sent you one as well of Silver Surfer.
Chromed out.
Okay, for those who
yours was chromed.
Mine's chromed.
I actually wanted to start a collection of artists drawing that, but like really quickly, like when you were at school in a textbook before anybody saw you.
Yes.
I want a collection of those with the signatures underneath, because I bet they'd all look so different. It'd be like,
for those who are listening to the podcast and not watching the video, I cannot tell you exactly what Ian just showed us.
Oh, I
you
will.
Can imagine.
I will.
Very nice hats on and everything and all that stuff. So.
It's a character called Todd the Tiny Penis, and Tony Perna draws Todd in cosplay as different Marvel characters and sends them to people in the post, unsolicited. So,
unsolicited, which is the best part.
I might add. This is my new intake of Black Hat cards that I've got to sort through and put into my spreadsheet and file. And this is my new intake of sketch cards of Black Hat, including this rather nice AP.
Oh, that's beautiful! Wow.
That I didn't get commissioned; someone else did. But he then.
Oh, is that the one you've been wanting?
No,
that's stunning, though. I forgot which one you were telling me about last time. It's beautiful.
You know what? I honestly can't remember.
We were talking about something you wanted for a while.
You've gotten back into Star Trek. What are you thinking of the new shows lately?
Well, I haven't seen Strange New Worlds yet.
It's very good. Well, I think it's good.
I want to because you might see me wrinkle up my nose when you ask me that question, and that's because Discovery, I have issues with Discovery. Discovery started really well, season 1. I thought it was terrific. It was wonderful because it's set just before Kirk's era. And Strange New Worlds has kind of spun off from that because, spoilers, but it's 4 years old, so forget it. At the end of Discovery season 1, the Discovery meets up with the Enterprise, but it's under the command of Captain Pike at that point. So it's the first crew of the Enterprise. And so Star Trek Strange New World, this new one, has carried on with Captain Pike and crew, who were a big part of season 2 of Discovery. Season 3 of Discovery, however, for me, completely found every shark in the book and jumped it. And I've bailed on it because I applaud to some degree the earnestness with which they're embracing diversity in the storylines and casting in Star Trek Discovery, but I think they've gone a little bit too far. It's become a little bit too much. It just feels like it feels like woke Trek to me now. And the issue I've had with Star Trek is that it never had to try that hard to be diverse, to embrace diversity. It was just kind of taken as read that in
was.
that world. Diversity was
naturally
part of the
was
DNA
that
of
way.
that world. Yeah. And so I don't know if that's reactive to the political situation in the US. I don't know if that's a particular decision that's been taken on behalf of the creators and the cast. I don't know. I just found it a little bit too much, so I've kind of bailed on it. But Star Trek Discovery Season 1 and some elements of 2 I absolutely love. Card I'm carrying on with because I love Patrick Stewart, but I'm struggling with Season 2.
Really?
I won't lie.
I actually really like
Yeah, I tell you what I'm finding difficult is that Patrick Stewart is still incredible to watch, and he's still better on Picard now than most people on their finest day, but he is clearly declining as he's with his advancing years, and you can see it, and that I'm having trouble with because I don't know.
Actually, if I may say, I totally appreciate your point of view on that. I find, yes, it's very obvious he's declining and all of that, but at the same time, we're all going down that road. Why not?
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
I guess so.
Otherwise,
yeah.
I don't see the point of trying to put us in the closet the minute we
It's
start.
fine. No. I mean, that's not the sole reason I'm having trouble with it. I think the pacing and some of the storyline decisions of Series 2 are just a bit. It could have. I always find it a bit frustrating. And Norrin and I have talked about this with other shows. Book of Boba Fett, to name one. When you do a 7 or 8 episode season, and you could have told the story in 4.
I haven't seen
The problem with the Book of Boba Fett, the conversation, and this has happened with Obi-Wan, which I won't say anything because that's really new.
I just
don't wanna
watched
spoil
the
anything.
second episode last night. All I'll say is that I'm really on board with it. Sorry.
And this is so these conversations are so hard because like I've done this stuff for a long time, and I really look at, the Book of Boba Fett. The issue I have with that show was that the direction wasn't right. The story was interesting, characters are interesting, but the direction and certain repeating things just wasn't right for this show. Like they're just things that weren't right there. And like I'm finishing up Deep Space Nine now, finally. So we're in the final season of DS9 for Star Trek. And we kind of stopped because we heard what happened to Jadzia Dax, and how the creator of the show was hassling that young woman, that actress. And so we had stopped watching because we heard all the disgusting things that were happening there, standard Hollywood stuff. But we came back to DS9 because we always heard like the later half of the season was so well written and so beautifully done. And the new lady they brought on was an amazing actress in her own right. So we ended up getting back into it. But, Star Trek has this, like Ian was saying before, you just understood that in the future, there weren't the issues we have now. Like that's what I loved about Next Generation, was that when you'd watch the show, you just understood innately. It's like, oh, all the stupid stuff we're dealing with now, they see as primitive. And that's what was so ingenious, because you would have those conversations. It's not like they weren't there or they were, not acknowledged. It's that if they did come up, they were like, that's so primitive. Why would you think that way? And it was so beautiful.
What did you think of Voyager? What did you think of Voyager?
I haven't started Voyager. I know Voyager, and we watched a couple episodes, and I haven't started yet, but I'm actually really excited. We're almost done with.
I won't say anything.
I'm excited.
I won't say anything. I have
it's like 20 years since I watched it. I can't remember. I met Tim Ross, who plays Tuvok. The very few conventions we have over here. He came over a couple of years ago, and I got a photo with him.
That's cool.
And he was kind of curmudgeonly, but cuddly. And but for me, I went back into the just to touch back on cards. I started back just over 10 years ago on some Star Trek movie sets from Rittenhouse. They brought out these Star Trek the complete movies, and then Movies in Motion was the second one. I think they did a few others as well. And they had autographs, on-card autographs, as Rittenhouse do so brilliantly, as I'm sure from all of the original Star Trek movies. So not the J.J. Abrams Kelvin verse or whatever it's called, but Star Trek 1 through 6, Generations, First Contacts, Insurrection, and Nemesis. So the 10 OG. So all of those, and it's brilliant because you've got on-card autos from Ricardo Montalban, who's passed away now. You've got on-card autos from obviously Nimoy, all the original cast. I think James Doohan had passed at the time I started doing those, and so did Forrest Kelly, but all the other original cast who are in the movies are on there. You know, people who are in the movies in relatively small roles, who are huge elsewhere, like Christian Slater, you know, Kim Cattrall, you know, both from Star Trek 6. You know, actors who are just absolutely incredible who are no longer with us. And there's so many of those in those movies, especially the early ones now. And I had maybe 20 autographs from it, and I think it ended up at about 150. And in the last year, I've just been moving through them. I've got maybe 20 to go.
Wow. Lindsay,
So
did you ever get Star Trek?
I did used to watch Star Trek, but not religiously. So I just got the odd episode here and there. A lot of excuse me. A lot of what I saw had Patrick Stewart in it.
Next Generation. Yeah.
Is that Voyager, that one?
That's Star Trek: The Next Generation.
That's Next Generation. Yeah, that's most of what I've seen. And I used to watch some of the old ones for some comedy value, you know, with the old Kirk and the eyeliner and the overacting. You know, I used to enjoy those, but that's as far as I got with Star Trek, to be honest. A couple of movies, maybe.
What do you think? What do you think the card community in general could use the most of right now?
Love. I say that slightly flippantly off the top of my head, but there is a grain of truth in that it's been there's been a few of those waves over the last year, 18 months in Marvel cards especially, and I've seen an awful lot of people falling out with each other over crazy shit. Pardon my French. But it's just like it's cards. People just need to chill out a little bit and just enjoy them. So I think is that weird polarization you get just with the internet existing and social media, that you know, on all sorts of things, and it's unfortunately just that behaviour just spills over into places where people hang out on Facebook and you know groups like ours, unfortunately. So
I just wish people could get a hold on their emotions again, so you can have a
little bit. And you know, to be fair, it's I'm not talking. You know, it's not the majority of stuff. An awful lot of people are just enjoying it. I would say patience. There's an awful lot of FOMO around at the moment with the some products being hot, and there's a dearth of new product, which is causing a lot of pent-up frustration for Marvel cards because various reasons that we're blessed that Upper Deck do come and talk to us about on the podcast. Their products aren't coming out as fast as they'd like, and there's a big product coming up that everyone is just waiting for that is going to drive people nuts. You know, it's a Spider-Man set, and it's going to be it's just, you know, you wait for ages for a bus to come along and then 3 come along at once. But it's going to be like that this year if Upper Deck managed to get their release schedule back on track. So I'd say patience with it, because my fear is, and I've done this myself, is that people will overspend and they'll end up in a bit of debt. And I think what you've got to realise is you've just got to chill out and just like pick your battles and then just play the long game with it. Because it's collecting, but people put themselves in a little bit of a tight spot financially collecting some of the stuff at the moment. You know, I've seen it happen to, you know, I can think of 6 people off the top of my head who've had to bow out of the hobby over the last year for one reason or another, because they've been overspending because of that FOMO. So, you know, it is real. So I think patience with it and just collecting what you can afford. It's easy to say, but not easy to do.
Well, like you said earlier, with the lockdown coming along and people starting to collect a lot more, I read a lot of stories on Facebook, people getting in actual fist fights over the sets and stuff, you know, so they can flip them and sell them on. And it was all, I don't know what your shelves are looking like now for collectible cards in the US. Are they still all bare, or is it calming down a little bit?
I think what happened in the US, you know, from my vantage point, because it's the only one I have. I think people were very frantic And I think people, like Ian so beautifully put it, the FOMO, I think there were multiple reasons why people were collecting. A lot of the times pre-pandemic, people were collecting because they had in the past, or they're looking for something that they can keep their mind at ease on and get into. And anytime you do any kind of collecting, the mentality of many collectors, even from the most serious to the most leisure, the most relaxed collector, it is the sense of like, well, I want to collect. Anytime you make a decision, it's like, oh, I want to own this piece that's desirable. You have built up conflict already, right? I mean, that's like perfect antidote for a story. It's like there's conflict there because you're gonna have to overhit an obstacle at one point. Because people are not going to want to let things go, or it's going to be expensive, or you're going to have to compromise certain things. And I think when new people came in, you had that plus other motives. A lot of people wanted to build up the hobby. A lot of people wanted to become an influencer. A lot of people wanted to open up businesses. A lot of people wanted to monopolize or even multiply their own worth, their investment through multiple genres, and a lot of people also came into the hobby thinking, I'll just pick up the biggest stuff, nobody will know, and I bounce. And what they found out was that you can't find it because it's with people who really love it. And I think that was a big difference for a lot of people coming from like sports cards. It's not that they don't love their cards at all. Like, that has nothing to do, I'm not taking that away from them whatsoever. But I think the idea for Marvel card collectors and collectors of any kind of artwork, and IPs like Turtles, Ghostbusters, Twilight Zone, Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, all these really great brands, is that when we look at a card, we're not just like, oh, look, it's out of 5. Cool. Right? Oh, it's of a player who has these stats. Cool. It's more like, this is like a piece of my identity. This helped me understand something about myself that I couldn't understand alone from how I lived in my house or whatever, right? It was this piece of like, wow, this helped me develop to the person I am now in some way, and I think when you have those connections to anything, it becomes far more difficult to let it go, right? And I think that's what was happening to a lot of collectors, is that they felt those deep connections. And so when people try to come in and try to pick things up and privilege,
it's almost like they're trespassing on something really important to them.
And I think that's where the aggression, like Ian was saying, like first response was love. That was in my head too, because I was just like, it really is kind of, it's difficult for a lot of people to be okay with what's happening right now. And it's a difficult thing to be okay with. So it's understandable. But at the end of the day, to get yourself riled up, to say things you normally would not say in person to someone, to think you understand somebody just by a couple sentences on a comment.
Yeah.
Once you go down that road, you're making so many assumptions in your head that you can't, you become unforgiving, you become confused, and you say things you would normally never say, and it's not, it ruins people's days, you know what I mean? And it makes life harder for people. And there's no reason to make someone's life harder if you can help it.
And these times are hard enough as it is, and difficult enough to deal with as it is. It's kind of maybe, let's just have some fun.
Yeah. And I think we're getting back to that. I think there's some positive.
Fun.
Yeah, fun. Right. Let's make this fun. Yeah. I think we're getting back to that. I think we're moving there.
I don't know if we are. I don't know.
I hope so.
Turn the news off sometimes now. It's just I can't deal with it anymore. But I know that Lindsay and I have discussed it because we're pretty new actually as a podcast, and not like you guys. You guys have been there for 3 years now, which, by the way, bravo, well done. Super well done. Yeah. But Lindsay and I, we talked in the beginning that if ever it is not fun, we will not do it, because there's just too many things that no. I really hope that you guys can continue on and be good examples for us over here. We're, like we were saying before, we're kind of like, mirror images, your podcast and our podcast. You've got a UK connection and a US connection. Lindsay and I have a UK connection, a Canadian connection. So and we're, two girls, two guys. It's kind of cool, The Brady Bunch
I
of
love it.
the punk. Do you have anything that you'd like to say about either the hobby, collecting, podcasting, or Marvel that we have not touched on that you feel you would like to share with anybody listening or watching?
Okay, great. Well, while I think about that, the first thing I will say is that I would love you guys to come onto our podcast soon, and we can ask you loads of questions to find out more about you, because I'm dying to find out more about you, Lindsay, because I didn't know you existed until Ingrid started this thing. So let's do that definitely, because I think it'd be great for folks to. I think it helps if everyone kind of cross promotes each other and builds each other up. It's always a good thing to do.
Definitely. I mean, I'm so interested to come and check out your group. I mean, unfortunately, I've never done any work for Upper Deck yet. My career kind of went in a different way, but it sounds like a great group of people as well. So I'd love to join the group and have a socialize and everything.
Well, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. People would love to see those cat images, man. I'd love to see the illustrations on there. That'd be awesome. That'd be so cool.
Marvel dogs as well. You can have a look at them.
Yes.
That Marvel, it's gone to the dogs, isn't it?
It's gone to the dogs.
Gone to the dogs. I can't remember what the question was now. What was the question? Anything else?
Can you say?
Do you want to add anything?
Can I ask you? Can you please say in Michael Caine voice, "You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off"?
Don't throw bloody spears at me. Sorry, no, that wasn't the quote, was it?
Supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
That's good, man. It's good.
And I've been drinking.
Like, all the way through, I'm thinking you sound a bit like Michael Caine.
Lindsay, did you watch that series that had Michael Caine in it? It was like he plays completely bananas, murder, terrible person. I can't remember the name of the series. I watched it last year. He is so good in it. What's the name of that?
I'm going to look for that.
I'm sure that somebody who's listening or watching is going, "You idiot, it's such and such a show." You got to look it up. I watched it on Netflix last year. It's really watchable. It's takes a episode to get into, but Michael Caine is really delicious to watch. He's just dripping character and stuff. And it's very good. It's really, really good.
Cool.
I don't remember the name of it, but I'm sure that it's in his IMDb or something. You can find
no one's researching it as
I'm just checking.
No one is my research.
People watch your podcast. Is it on YouTube? Is it on Spotify? Is it?
We're audio. We're primarily audio. We did start doing, because Norrin's kind of background and forte is more sort of video. We did do video quite a lot during lockdown, but it just, as time, basically, we kind of just, went back to our core audio, because I think doing both was just not sustainable. So it's primarily audio. We do have a YouTube channel, though, but you can basically find us just by Googling at the MCC Pod.
Okay.
MCC Pod.
Yeah.
Okay.
Google that and you'll find us everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, the Twitter.
Your experience in video, Norrin, is there anything that's like dead simple and free that people can use to edit videos that you know of around at the moment?
So if you buy a Mac computer, it usually has something called iMovie. So you can kind of go there. There's a lot of editing features on the phone. So a lot of people who do Instagram videos will edit on their phone, and they can add clips in there fairly easy. There are some free programs. What
apps? Because there's a plethora of apps, and I've got loads on my phone, and I haven't got a clue how to work any of them. And half of them seem to sort of go to paid stuff when you want to do something decent. So
so it's really
apps.
It's really difficult. So I have the Adobe Suite, because I do Photoshop stuff, I do artwork, and other stuff like that, and so I'm an editor by trade and by occupation.
But do you have that on your phone though?
When you do it on your phone, so basically you can go Adobe CC and you can get like $20 a month, and you can do it for free on your phone. It's not Lightroom, that's for photos.
That's $20 a month.
Well, in the sense that you can like actually like do what you want on the phone, because when you need a computer to do video editing, it has to have certain capabilities. Otherwise the computer sounds like me running up a hill. It's just like just dying. So it can be pretty bad. Well, and the issue too is that Ian and I do such long format pieces like you guys do with podcasts. I mean, podcasts are long format. They're like over an hour or 2 hours depending. So when you do that in a video, it takes forever to render that, to upload it. And then we also have edits because Ian has, problems staying on script. And no, I'm just kidding. I do too. I have a potty mouth too. So we have to be really careful with each other and be like, okay, we got to edit this cuss word out like 20 times. Which always happens.
And I like playing. So on the audio side of things, I use Audacity, which is free on Windows. I don't know if
it's on. You can get it on MacBook too, and I have been using it.
Yeah, so I use that for audio, and I've kind of been learning how to do it. I mean, Norrin does the main mix because I'm useless at the adding the music and stuff. But then I'll always listen through to it on Audacity, bleep out any curse words, simply so that we can go in the clean category in iTunes. I'll often add on little things after the credits or put in little sound effect things. Or there was one episode, I think it was that Christmas one, I put a log fire underneath this part of the episode.
The whole thing.
Most of it. Because I just love that audio soundscape idea.
I'm the one who's learning to do the video editing, which when we started this podcast, I know that much about video editing. So I started with iMovie, and now I'm learning LumaFusion, and I'm wanting to I've been wanting to put little funny things like, they have in the movies. That would be too much time. I just don't have the time for that. But like you were just saying there, maybe reminded me, it was like, oh, I'd love to put little weird things at the very end of the credits that nobody ever watches,
Yeah. I'm always doing that. Well, Norrin did one by mistake the other week, because I think when you send over the audio track, sometimes you've used a bass or whatever it is from a previous thing. And
sometimes it gets lost in there.
Yeah, which had unintentional 10-minute gap after the end of the credits, and then it just ended up with you saying something as a quote. And everyone was like, why was there a 10-minute gap? And I was like, was there anything at the end of that? Because I suddenly fast forwarded and heard it because I missed it.
It's a secret track on an album. Why not?
It is. It's just
a
like
deep
one of
cut,
those secret
man.
tracks.
We will hold a contest. I'm gonna be like, what happened to that 10-minute gap on episode blank blank blank? I'm helping us with content. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm going to drop loads of swear words in Ingrid, so you have to spend ages editing them all.
Oh, please.
Oh, and on the images side of things, because I'm largely resigned to the phone because just as kids, and I don't have a Mac as well. I've got a PC, and generally speaking, Macs are better for images. So on the iPhone, there's an app called that Greg from Rebel Base Card recommended. It used to be called Over, but
the app was called Greg then. Sorry.
No. The app, search Greg in the App Store, and you'll get his podcast. That would be great if you could do that.
That would be good.
No, there's an app called. It used to be called Over. I think it's now called Studio. That's it. Because it's been acquired by GoDaddy, and I do all the imagery for the podcast in there, and it's got all the basic stuff. You can do templates, and then you can just add layers and front and back and fade and all that sort of stuff, and it's really good.
The Black Hat one you just did looked really good. I just saw that.
Yeah, and it's just fun. You can just futz around with it and just create something and just have fun with it. And each year we've blatantly stolen this idea from Greg. Every year he changes his artwork that he does on his visual tiles for Instagram to reflect a different color series of the Star Wars trading cards, because they came out in, I think the first set was blue, then it was red, then it was green, and now he's on year 3 of his podcast, and he's on green, for example.
That's right.
I think he's got 6 colors to do with the original Star Wars set, and then Empire Strikes Back has got another design, and he's recreated, and you do this, Norrin, recreated the border designs from scratch. Make them look spot on, which he's also done with the trading cards. So each year we do that, and I think the current one is based on like the PMG hot PNG cards, and it's so much fun just to like fit images around it and have things that complement it, and maybe sometimes break the fourth wall with it and have something slightly comes over it, and it's just it's so much fun doing that.
That's really cool. Yeah, it gives you something fun to do, and for those who like to collect things, they can collect cards from podcasts. I mean, how awesome!
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I'm hoping we'll get to do more card stuff.
Do you do any giveaways or anything like that? You've mentioned something about cards a little bit, but do you have sketch card artists doing anything for you, or give out promos or anything?
We've had a lot of nice things happen for us.
We have had some giveaways, haven't we? Yeah, we did.
We have.
We had Warren Martinek on episode 100. Yeah. And he very kindly gave away an AP that we ran as a competition on Instagram. And we've had a couple of boxes that we've given away from time to time. Generally speaking, we've always opened each episode, and we've got a little bank of them now. And Ingrid, you've been on one of them because you were on one of our episodes of audio files from artists or people in the hobby, where we'll say to them, "Hi, this is such and such, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collectors podcast." Well, I blatantly lifted that from a sports podcast that used to have hockey players say that because it was about hockey. So before we even put our first episode out, I messaged handful of artists, and so the very first words you'll hear on our first episode of Marvel Card Collectors podcast is Judy Bell, because her intro was on episode 1.
Wow.
And then what we try and do is we try and make sure that we talk about their work on the episode, certainly if it's the first time they've been on. If they're a sketch artist, obviously someone like Julie or Boris, people know their stuff. They don't need us pimping their work. And then we'll link and tag them when we put out the
and we'll go through their Instagram page too. So like we always, like, especially artists who are new on the scene or fairly new, we always, I don't know, we've tried so hard to make sure the podcast helps people understand what an AP is, helps people understand how to reach out to artists, because the money should be going to artists, period. So like a lot of the podcast is about arranging that kind of relationship. And we've done a lot of work for people that have done really well, which has been really awesome. You know what I mean?
And we've had some artists come on the show who, a lot of them I've made friends. Mike Munch.
Yeah, they're really lovely people.
Did this black cat for me.
Oh, nice!
And it's on our trading card stock, which was created and printed and issued by Jaylin Warner.
Yeah.
Nice.
Who's been on the show a number of times as well. So, when I say friends of the podcast, they literally are that. It's not just a wiki phrase, friend of the show, and they are friends of ours. So, George Vega, who came on.
George Vega, so nice.
Did off his own back.
I have mine here.
The sketch card that he chose to do on stock.
So nice.
It's it's lovely. So we're blessed.
We're gonna have to slowly close this one off. Unfortunately, because it could be so much fun to talk for hours more with you guys. You're super interesting to talk with. We'd love to have you on again at one point if you'll accept the invitation. So any last words from you, Lindsay, before we
excuse me. No, I think we've covered everything. I've just been having a great laugh today.
I think it's so cool. I would really love to have you guys on again to talk, especially because it would be great for Lindsay and Ian to maybe talk a little bit how you can build the card community in the UK, so that us North Americans can go over there and bother you all. And well, thank you so much for having been on the podcast. This has really been an interesting talk. I hate to cut it short, but we will have you guys back on. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the evening, Norrin, because I guess it's getting pretty late over there for you and Lindsay, eh? No, Ian, that's right. Too many continents to figure about. It's Ian who's getting late.
Yeah, it's always getting late for me, even at 10 in the morning, quite frankly. I'm
Oh,
always
okay.
looking forward to
Ready to go to
looking
bed?
forward to that. Yeah, I'm always ready to go to bed. You know what it's like with young people.
Tea time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
I'm looking.
Lauren and I that are on the. It's
You and
regular
me.
for us.
Yeah. You'll be getting ready for lunch soon. I will be going and getting a glass of wine.
I approve of that.
I approve that. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank
this was a
you.
blast. It was so fun talking to you, and we love what you guys are doing. And I can't wait for more episodes. You're both doing such amazing work. Thank you so much.
And I loved the episode you did with Harris, because I know you've met Harris before and you've been to con, but I've never met Harris, and I've always kind of had him a bit on a pedestal because non-sport update and all that sort of stuff. So next time you speak to him, say hi.
Say hi.
Me in particular.
We'll do that. That's the point of what we're trying to do is to honestly meet everyone and in a relaxed and friendly way. And we have plans for what we'd like to do. Don't know if we'll get to do them, but we have plans. But
Yay, so
again,
exciting.
Thank you again, and we shall reach out for the next interview.
Yay.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much again.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Happy collecting, everybody.
Enjoy collecting.